But Linda didn't think about history or legacy. She thought about the next child who needed help, the next frightened cub who needed to learn that the world could be safe, the next parent who needed to discover that love was not weakness, but the strongest force in the universe. The ship called Horizon's Edge moved slowly through the darkness of space. Inside the vessel, Lieutenant Maya Price stood by the large window and watched the planet below. Keller 4 was a beautiful world with blue oceans and green land masses. From space, it looked peaceful. Maya had no idea that everything she believed about the galaxy was about to change. Captain Danny Morrison walked onto the bridge with a data pad in his hand. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been in space for 30 years and thought he had seen everything. The mission today was simple. They would deliver medical supplies to the Kel people and leave. Nothing complicated. Nothing dangerous. The Kel were one of the older species in the Galactic Council. They looked like humans in some ways, but their skin was covered in scales that changed colors. The scales showed their feelings. Blue meant happy. Red meant angry. Purple meant important. Maya had studied their culture before the mission. Everything she read said the Kel were civilized and peaceful. Maya's team prepared for the landing. There were 6 humans going down to the planet. Jake Turner was a young soldier with quick reflexes. Lisa Grant and Kevin Walsh were doctors who had volunteered for the mission. Helen Brooks and Carl Jensen were diplomats who spoke several alien languages. They all seemed excited about the mission. The shuttle ride down to the planet was smooth. Maya looked out the window and saw cities built with shining metal towers. The Kel had technology that was more advanced than Earth's. They had been traveling between stars for hundreds of years before humans even left their own solar system. Maya felt a small bit of nervousness. She wanted to make a good impression. When the shuttle landed, the first thing Maya noticed was the silence. The streets were empty. No one came to meet them. The buildings around them were clean and well-maintained, but there were no people anywhere. Maya checked her communicator. The coordinates were correct. This was supposed to be a residential area with thousands of Kel living here. Jake pulled out his scanner and checked for life signs. His face went pale. "Lieutenant, I'm reading multiple heat signatures inside that building." "They're not moving." Maya looked where he pointed. It was a large gray building with no windows. The main door had been welded shut with metal bars. Someone had sealed it from the outside. Maya's stomach twisted. Something was very wrong here. She ordered Jake to cut through the door. The metal screeched and sparked as his tools worked. Lisa and Kevin prepared their medical equipment. Helen tried to contact the local Kel authorities, but no one answered her calls. The silence was worse than any alarm. When the door finally opened, the smell hit them first. It was the smell of too many bodies in too small a space. The smell of sickness and fear. Maya stepped inside and her eyes adjusted to the darkness. Then she saw them, children. Dozens of Kel children huddled together on the floor. Their scales were dull and gray, not shining like healthy Kel should be. They were so thin that Maya could see their bones. Some were crying softly. Others just stared with empty eyes. The youngest looked maybe 3 years old. The oldest might have been 12. Lisa immediately started checking the children. Her hands shook as she used her medical scanner. "They're starving, dehydrated. Some have infections." Her voice broke. "How long have they been in here?" A small Kel girl reached out and touched Maya's hand. Her scales flickered weakly between gray and blue. She was trying to show happiness but didn't have the strength. Maya felt tears burn in her eyes. She picked up the child carefully. The girl weighed almost nothing. Jake and Kevin started carrying children out to the shuttle. They moved as quickly as they could, but there were so many. Maya counted as they worked. 73 children. 73 young lives locked in darkness and left to die. A voice spoke behind them. Maya turned and saw an adult Kel standing in the doorway. His scales were deep purple, the color of authority. His eyes were cold and showed no emotion. He looked at the humans like they were insects. "You should not be here," the Kel elder said. His voice was calm, as if he was discussing the weather. "This is not your concern." Maya felt anger rise in her chest. "These are children. They're dying." The elder's scales didn't change color. "They are genetically impure. Our culture has standards. We cannot allow defective genetics to continue in our population." He said it like he was explaining a simple math problem. Defective? Maya couldn't believe what she was hearing. "They're just kids." The elder pulled out a data pad. I have all the proper documentation. The Galactic Council approved our genetic purity protocols 42 cycles ago. We file reports every year. Everything is legal. Those words hit Maya like a punch. The Council knew. The organization that was supposed to protect all species in the galaxy knew that the Kel were doing this, and they had approved it. They had let it happen for 42 years. Jake stepped forward, his hand near his weapon. We're taking these children. The elder's scales flashed red with anger. That would be theft of Kel property. I will report this to the Council. Your species will face consequences. Maya made a decision in that moment that would change everything. Report whatever you want. We're not leaving them here to die. They loaded all 73 children onto the shuttle. It was crowded and uncomfortable, but no one complained. Lisa and Kevin moved through the packed space, giving water and emergency nutrients to the weakest children. Helen recorded everything with her camera, documenting the condition they found the children in. As the shuttle lifted off, Maya looked back at the sealed building. How many children had died in there before today? How many had the Kel killed while the Council looked the other way? She thought about all the speeches she had heard about galactic civilization and cooperation. It all seemed like lies now. The flight back to the horizon's edge was quiet. The children were too weak to make much noise. Some slept. Some cried softly. The small girl who had touched Maya's hand stayed close to her. Her scales were slowly starting to show more color as the warmth and safety of the shuttle revived her a little. Danny was waiting when they docked. He took one look at the children and his face went hard. Get them to medical. All of them. I don't care if we have to turn the cargo bay into a hospital. He looked at Maya. What happened down there? Maya told him everything. About the sealed building. About the elder's cold explanation. About the Council's approval of genocide dressed up in legal language. Danny listened and his jaw tightened. We need to report this, Helen said. The Council needs to know. The Council already knows, Maya said quietly. That's the problem. Danny looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was meeting, making decisions, pretending to care about civilization, and they had known about this all along. Get me a secure channel to Earth, Danny ordered. We're about to make a lot of people very uncomfortable. Ambassador Patricia Cole had been on the Galactic Council for only 3 months. She was still learning the complicated rules of alien diplomacy. The council chamber was enormous, with seats for representatives from 17 different species. The air system worked hard to keep everyone comfortable, mixing different atmospheres so all the aliens could breathe. Patricia sat in the human section and tried to stay calm. The message from the horizon's edge had arrived 2 hours ago. She had read it 3 times, each time hoping she had misunderstood. But the words were clear. The images were worse. Starving children locked in darkness while their own people left them to die. Speaker Venn, the Kel representative, stood to address the council. His scales were bright gold, showing righteous anger. The human vessel has committed a serious crime. They invaded our sovereign territory. They stole property from a legal detention facility. We demand the immediate return of our property and punishment for the humans responsible. Patricia stood up quickly. Her heart was pounding. Property? You're calling children property? The council speaker, a massive creature covered in fur called a thorn, rumbled in what might have been a sigh. Ambassador Cole, please control yourself. There are procedures for addressing the council. Procedures, Patricia repeated. She looked around at all the alien faces. Some wouldn't meet her eyes. We can talk about procedures after we talk about the fact that children are being systematically murdered. A crystalline being called a Vrix pulsed with soft blue light. Patricia's translator turned the light patterns into words. The Kel genetic protocols are a recognized cultural practice. The council approved them many years ago. All proper documentation has been filed and reviewed. Patricia felt like the floor had disappeared beneath her feet. You knew. All of you knew this was happening. The thorn shifted in his massive seat. Ambassador, you are new to galactic politics. There are complexities you must learn to understand. The Kel are a powerful species. They have been part of this council far longer than humanity. We cannot simply interfere in their internal cultural matters. Internal cultural matters, Patricia said slowly. That's what you're calling genocide. Speaker Venn's scales flashed angry red. How dare you use that word? We maintain genetic standards for the good of our entire species. The defective ones would only suffer if allowed to live full lives. We are being merciful. Patricia wanted to scream. She wanted to flip the table and walk out. But she forced herself to stay calm. Getting angry wouldn't help the children. She needed to think clearly. How many? She asked quietly. The Thorn looked confused. Excuse me? How many children have died in your detention facilities over the 42 years this has been going on? Silence filled the enormous chamber. No one wanted to answer that question. Patricia let the silence stretch out. She looked at each representative one by one. They all looked away. Finally, a small reptilian creature from a species called the Zenth spoke up. The Kelfile annual reports? The numbers are available in the council records. Patricia pulled out her data pad. Her hands shook as she accessed the files. The numbers were there, buried in technical language and bureaucratic terms. But once she started reading, the truth became clear. 42,000 children. That was the official number. 42,000 young Kel had been classified as genetically impure and sent to detention facilities. The survival rate was listed as 12%. Patricia did the math. Over 36,000 children had died while the council filed paperwork and looked the other way. She read the number out loud. Her voice echoed in the silent chamber. 36,000 children dead, while you all sat here and called it a cultural practice. The Vrix pulsed again. We understand your emotional reaction. Humans are a young species. You do not yet understand the necessities of maintaining galactic stability. The Kel have a powerful military. If we had interfered, it could have led to war. So you chose to let children die rather than risk a conflict, Patricia said. You chose comfort over conscience. On the horizon's edge, Captain Danny Morrison faced his own crisis. His communications officer had just informed him that 8 Kel warships had appeared and surrounded his vessel. They were demanding the return of the children. Danny stood on the bridge and looked at the tactical display. His ship was not built for combat. Against 8 Kel cruisers, they wouldn't last 5 minutes. Captain Earth Command is sending a message, Lieutenant Nina Shaw said. She looked worried. It's marked urgent and official. Danny took the data pad and read the orders. They were clear and direct. Comply with Kel demands. Return the children. Avoid military confrontation at all costs. Humanity's position in the Galactic Council was too fragile to risk over this incident. He read the orders twice. Then he looked down at the medical bay readout on his screen. Dr. Lisa Grant had sent him an update an hour ago. The children were responding to treatment. They were eating real food for the first time in months. Some were even playing a little, their scales showing brighter colors. Lisa had also noted that at least 15 of the children would have died within the next week if they had stayed in that facility. Danny thought about his own daughter back on Earth. She was 8 years old, the same age as many of these Kel children. He thought about what he would want someone to do if she was the one locked in darkness and starving. The answer was simple. He looked up at his bridge crew. They were all watching him, waiting for orders. Ryan Foster, his tactical officer, met his eyes. Ryan had a son too. He nodded slightly, understanding what Danny was thinking. Nina, respond to Earth Command, Danny said slowly. Tell them we're experiencing communication difficulties due to interference from the Kel ships. Tell them we cannot clearly receive their orders. Nina's eyes went wide. Sir, they'll know that's not true. They can check the signal strength. I know, Danny said. But it will buy us time. And more importantly, it will force them to make a decision. They can either back us up or throw us to the wolves. Either way, they'll have to be honest about what they really believe. Jake Turner appeared on the bridge. He had been helping in medical. Captain, the Kel ships are hailing us. They say if we don't start transferring the children in the next hour, they'll open fire. Danny looked at the tactical display again. 8 cruisers. His ship had minimal weapons, meant mainly for defense against pirates. In a straight fight, they would lose badly. But maybe they didn't need to fight. Maybe they just needed to survive long enough to get away. Ryan, how long to charge the jump drive? At least 30 minutes, sir. But we can't jump with Kel ships this close. They'll detect the power buildup and target our engines. What if we don't give them time to react? Danny asked. What if we charge the drive cold? Keep all systems on minimal power until the last second, then go to full power and jump before they can respond. Ryan ran the calculations on his screen. It's risky. Really risky. If the drive doesn't come online fast enough, they'll cripple us. And even if it works, the jump coordinates won't be precise. We could end up anywhere. But it might work, Danny said. It might work, Ryan agreed. Danny made his decision. He had known the moment he saw those children that he couldn't give them back. Everything else was just figuring out how to live with that choice. Start cold charging the drive. Minimal power signature. Make it look like standard system maintenance. In 30 minutes we run. Back in the council chamber, Patricia was still standing. She had been talking for 20 minutes, laying out the evidence of what the Kell had done. She showed images from the horizon's edge. She read testimony from the human medics treating the children. She presented the council's own records showing they had known and approved this for decades. When she finished, the chamber was silent again. But this time the silence felt different. Some of the representatives looked uncomfortable. The Vrix's light pulsed with colors Patricia's translator couldn't identify. Finally, Patricia asked the question that mattered most. "What are we going to do about this?" The Thorn spoke slowly. "The council will review the situation. We will form a committee to study the matter. These things take time." "Those children don't have time," Patricia said. "Nevertheless," the Thorn replied, "we must follow proper procedures." Patricia looked around the chamber one last time. She saw exactly what she expected to see: discomfort, embarrassment, but no willingness to actually do anything. They would form committees. They would study the situation. They would write reports, and children would keep dying while they pretended to care. She gathered her things and walked toward the exit. At the door, she turned back. "History will remember this moment," she said quietly. "It will remember what you chose to do, and more importantly, it will remember what you chose not to do." Then she left the chamber and headed for her ship. She had calls to make. Earth needed to know exactly what kind of organization they had joined. Maya Price stood in the cargo bay that had been converted into a temporary hospital. 73 Kell children filled the space, some sleeping on cots, others sitting quietly. The medical team worked constantly, checking vital signs and providing food. The children were starting to look healthier. Their scales showed more color now. Some even smiled when the humans walked by. A young Kell girl named Sella had attached herself to Maya. Wherever Maya went, Sella followed a few steps behind. She was maybe 6 years old, with scales that shifted between cautious yellow and hopeful green. She hadn't spoken yet, but she watched everything with intelligent eyes. Maya knelt down beside Sella. "Hey there. How are you feeling?" Sella's scales flickered to nervous blue. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Maya realized the girl might not know how to speak. If she had spent most of her life locked in that dark facility, no one would have taught her. "It's okay," Maya said gently. "You don't have to talk. I just want you to know you're safe now. No one is going to hurt you anymore." Sella reached out and touched Maya's face with one small scaled hand. Then she did something unexpected. She wrapped her thin arms around Maya's neck and held on tight. Maya hugged her back, feeling the small body shake with silent sobs. Dr. Lisa Grant walked over. She looked exhausted. She had been working for 18 hours straight. "Lieutenant, we have a problem. Some of the children are asking questions. They want to know if we're taking them home." Maya's heart sank. "What do we tell them?" "The truth, I guess," Lisa said quietly. "That we can't take them back. That their own people don't want them." The ship suddenly shook. Alarms started blaring. Maya grabbed Sella and held her close. Over the intercom, Captain Morrison's voice came through. "All hands secure for possible combat. This is not a drill." Maya ran to the nearest wall panel and pulled up the tactical display. 8 Kell warships surrounded the horizon's edge. They were close, weapons powered up and ready. Maya's military training kicked in. She started moving children away from the outer walls, clustering them in the center of the cargo bay where they would be safer if the ship took fire. Lisa helped, moving quickly and efficiently. The children sensed something was wrong. Some started crying. Others huddled together, their scales turning dark gray with fear. Maya wished she could tell them everything would be okay, but she didn't know if that was true. On the bridge, Captain Danny Morrison watched the countdown timer. 28 minutes until the jump drive was ready. 28 minutes to somehow survive 8 angry Kell warships. "They're hailing us again," Nina Shaw reported. "Same message. Transfer the children or they open fire." No response, Danny ordered. "Let them think we're considering it." Ryan Foster looked up from his tactical station. "Sir, I'm reading weapon locks. All 8 ships are targeting our engines and life support. They're not trying to destroy us. They want to disable us on board." Danny nodded. That made sense. The Kel wanted their property back. They wouldn't risk killing the children by destroying the horizon's edge. But if they disabled the ship and boarded, it would be over. Danny and his crew would be arrested. The children would be returned to those dark facilities. How long until jump drive ready? Danny asked. 26 minutes, Ryan said. But Captain, I've been thinking. Even if we escape, we can't run forever. The Kel will chase us. Earth Command might not support us. We'll be fugitives. I know, Danny said. But we'll be fugitives who did the right thing. I can live with that. Lieutenant Jake Turner had an idea. He ran onto the bridge, breathing hard. Captain, what if we don't try to escape with the whole ship? What if we send a shuttle out as a decoy? Danny turned to look at him. Explain. A small shuttle could charge its jump drive faster than our main ship. If we load some of the children onto it and make a run for the edge of the blockade, the Kel ships will have to break formation to chase it. That would give us an opening. Ryan ran the numbers. It could work. A shuttle could be ready to jump in 10 minutes. If 4 or 5 of the Kel ships chase it, we'd have better odds of breaking through with the main ship. Danny saw the flaw immediately. Whoever takes that shuttle would be sacrificing themselves. Even if they escaped the initial chase, they'd be alone in space with limited supplies and Kel ships hunting them. I'll do it, Maya said. She had come onto the bridge without anyone noticing. Give me a pilot and a dozen of the healthiest children. We'll draw them off and give you a chance to save the rest. Danny looked at her. She was young, maybe 28 years old. Her whole career was ahead of her. Lieutenant, I can't order you to do this. You're not ordering me, sir. I'm volunteering. Sela had followed Maya onto the bridge. She stood in the doorway, watching with those intelligent eyes. Her scales were shifting rapidly through different colors, trying to understand what was happening. Danny made his decision. All right. Take Shuttle Bay 2, load 12 children and prepare for launch. You'll have Corporal Turner as your pilot. When I give the signal, punch your engines and head for the blockade edge at maximum speed. Make it obvious you're running. We need the Kel to chase you. Maya nodded. She turned to leave, then looked back. Sir, for what it's worth, this was the right call. All of it. Tell me that when we're safely away, Danny said. Maya gathered the 12 healthiest children, including Sela. She explained what was happening in simple terms. They would be taking a smaller ship. It would be a bumpy ride, but they would be safe. Some of the children looked scared. Others looked determined. They understood that the humans were trying to protect them. The shuttle bay was cold and smelled like fuel. Jake ran the pre-flight checks while Maya strapped the children into seats. The shuttle was designed for 8 passengers, so it was cramped with 14 people aboard. Sela sat right next to Maya, holding her hand tight. Shuttle 2, you are clear for launch, Captain Morrison's voice came through the comm. Wait for my signal. Maya looked at the 12 scared children depending on her. She thought about her training, about all the simulations she had run. Nothing had prepared her for this. But nothing ever really prepared you for the moments that mattered. Lieutenant Price, the captain's voice was serious now. When I give the signal, you launch immediately. No hesitation. The timing has to be perfect. Understood, sir. The seconds ticked by. Maya could hear her own heartbeat. Could hear the children breathing. Could hear the hum of the shuttle's engines warming up. Now, the captain ordered. Jake slammed the throttle forward. The shuttle shot out of the bay like a bullet. The sudden acceleration pushed everyone back into their seats. One of the children cried out. Maya held Sela's hand and tried to project calm she didn't feel. On the tactical display, Maya watched the Kel ships react. It took them 3 seconds to understand what was happening. Then 4 of the 8 cruisers broke formation and turned to pursue the shuttle. Their engines flared bright as they accelerated. They took the bait, Jake said. 4 ships on our tail. They're faster than us, but we've got a head start. Maya checked the jump drive status. 8 minutes until it was ready. 8 minutes to stay ahead of 4 Kel warships that were gaining on them every second. Back on the horizon's edge, Captain Morrison saw his opening. With 4 Kel ships chasing the shuttle, the blockade had gaps. He waited until the pursuing ships were committed, unable to turn back quickly. Then he gave the order, all power to engines. Ryan, plot the fastest course through that gap. We're breaking through. The horizon's edge surged forward. The remaining Kel ships reacted immediately, trying to close the gap. Energy beams lanced through space, some missing, some striking the horizon's edge's shields. The ship shook with each impact. Shields at 60%, Ryan reported. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. Keep going, Danny ordered. We just need to reach jump distance. In the cargo bay hospital, the children screamed as the ship shook. Lisa and Kevin held on to support rails and tried to keep the children calm. Medical equipment crashed to the floor. One of the overhead lights exploded, showering sparks. But Lisa kept moving, checking each child, making sure no one was injured. On the shuttle, Maya watched the pursuing Kel ships getting closer. They were in firing range now. Energy beams flashed past the shuttle, missing by meters. Jake flew like a madman, throwing the small ship into wild turns and rolls that made everyone's stomach flip. "Jump drive ready in 2 minutes," Jake said through gritted teeth. "But they're about to get weapon locks on us." Maya made a decision.
"Kids, hold on to something."
This is going to get rough. She reached forward and killed the shuttle's main engines. The sudden deceleration threw them forward against their restraints. Behind them, the Kel ships shot past, their targeting computers confused by the unexpected maneuver. "Now, restart engines and jump," Maya ordered. Jake's hands flew over the controls. The engines roared back to life. The jump drive hummed with building power. The Kel ships were turning around, realizing they had been tricked. They opened fire, desperate to disable the shuttle before it could escape. Energy beams struck the shuttle's rear section. Alarm screamed. The lights flickered. But the jump drive had just enough power. Space twisted around them and the shuttle vanished. They reappeared in empty space far from any star. The shuttle's systems were damaged but functional. Maya checked on the children. Everyone was scared but unhurt. Cella's scale, the Horizon's Edge, limped through space with half its systems damaged. Captain Danny Morrison sat in his command chair and looked at the damage reports scrolling across his screen. The jump drive was burned out completely. It would take weeks to repair, maybe months. The main engines were working at 40% power. Life support was failing in 6 sections of the ship. They had made it away from the Kel blockade, but barely. "Any word from Lieutenant Price in the shuttle?" Danny asked. Nina Shaw shook her head. "Nothing, sir. We've been broadcasting on all frequencies, but we're not getting any response. They could be anywhere." Danny tried not to think about Maya and those 12 children lost somewhere in space. He had to focus on the 61 children still aboard his ship. They needed him to get them somewhere safe. "Set course for Mars," he ordered. "Best speed we can manage. And send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we're coming home." Ryan Foster looked worried. "Sir, Earth Command ordered us to return the children. When we show up with them still aboard, there's going to be consequences." "I know," Danny said quietly. "But right now, getting these kids to safety is all that matters. We'll deal with the consequences when we get there." In the cargo bay hospital, Dr. Lisa Grant continued working. She hadn't slept in 2 days. The children needed constant care. Some had infections that required careful treatment. Others needed therapy to help them process the trauma of what they had been through. Lisa moved from bed to bed, checking each child with gentle hands. A young Kel boy caught her sleeve. His scales were turning healthy blue for the first time. "Doctor, are we really going to Earth?" "To the human world?" Lisa smiled at him. "Yes, we are." "You'll be safe there. But what about the others?" the boy asked. "What about all the children still in the facilities on our world?" Lisa had been trying not to think about that. There were detention facilities all over Kel space. Thousands of children still trapped in darkness. The 73 they had saved were just a small fraction. But she couldn't tell this boy that. Not when he was just starting to hope again. "We're going to help them too," she promised. Somehow. On the small shuttle drifting in empty space, Maya and Jake worked on repairs. The children stayed strapped in their seats, quiet and patient. They had learned patience in those dark facilities. They knew how to wait and stay silent. It broke Maya's heart to see how well behaved they were. Children should be loud and messy and difficult sometimes. These kids had been trained by suffering to take up as little space as possible. Jake finally got the communications array working. "Got it. I can send a signal now, but I don't know if anyone will hear it. We're pretty far from everything." "Send it anyway," Maya said. "Keep broadcasting our location. Someone will find us eventually." Sella tugged on Maya's sleeve. The girl still hadn't spoken, but she was trying to communicate in other ways. She pointed at the window, then at Maya, then made a questioning gesture with her hands. "You want to know if we're going to be okay?" Maya guessed. Sella nodded, her scales shifting to worried yellow. Maya knelt down so she was at eye level with the girl. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Our ship is damaged. We're far from help, but I promise you this. I will do everything in my power to keep you and the other children safe. Even if it costs me everything. Sela stared at her for a long moment. Then her scales shifted to a color Maya had never seen before. A deep warm orange that the translator couldn't identify. Sela reached out and touched Maya's face again, gentle and deliberate. Then she spoke her first words. They were in the Kel language, but Maya's translator rendered them clearly. You are Pack Mother now. We trust you. Maya felt tears in her eyes. She pulled Sela into a hug and let herself cry for a moment. For these children. For all the children still suffering. For the terrible burden of knowing the galaxy wasn't what she thought it was. Back on Earth, the news had broken. Someone on the horizon's edge had leaked the footage before the ship lost communications. Now images of the detention facilities were playing on every screen across the planet. Humanity saw the sealed buildings. They saw the starving children. They saw the Kel elder calmly explaining that it was all legal and approved. The reaction was immediate and volcanic. Protests erupted in every major city. Millions of humans took to the streets, demanding action. They wanted their government to help those children. They wanted justice for the ones who had died. They wanted answers about why the Galactic Council had allowed this to happen. Ambassador Patricia Cole stood in front of the Earth Senate and gave testimony. She had returned from the council chambers with recordings of everything that was said. She played them for the senators, let them hear the casual way the aliens discussed genocide, let them hear the excuses and the bureaucratic language that tried to hide murder behind policy. When she finished, the chamber was silent. Then Senator Gregory Adams stood up. He was an old man who had fought in Earth's last war decades ago. His voice shook with anger as he spoke. I have heard enough. The Galactic Council has revealed itself to be a collection of cowards and accomplices. They knew children were dying and they did nothing. They approved the murder and filed it away in reports. They chose peace and comfort over basic morality. He looked around at his fellow senators. I move that Earth immediately withdraw from the Galactic Council. We cannot be part of an organization that enables this kind of evil, and more than that, I move that we commit our resources to helping any and all refugees fleeing persecution by Council species, starting with those Kel children. The vote was unanimous. Earth withdrew from the Council that same day. On the horizon's edge, news of Earth's withdrawal came through just as they entered Mars' orbit. Danny read the message twice, not quite believing it. Earth had thrown away 15 years of diplomatic work. They had isolated themselves from the galactic community. They had made themselves targets of council sanctions and economic pressure, all for 73 children who weren't even human. Ryan Foster whistled softly. They really did it. They chose us over the council. They chose principles over politics, Danny corrected. That's different. A new message appeared on the screen. Danny opened it and felt relief flood through him. It was from the new Secretary General, Patricia Cole. He remembered her from the diplomatic briefings. She was the ambassador who had challenged the council. The message was short and direct. Captain Morrison, you and your crew are ordered to proceed to Earth for debriefing. You are not under arrest. The charges against you have been dropped. Welcome home and well done. Danny allowed himself a small smile. Nina, respond to that message. Tell them we're coming home. But we're missing one shuttle with Lieutenant Price and 12 children. We need search teams out looking for them. Already done, sir, Nina said. Mars Defense has dispatched 4 search vessels. They're scanning every route the shuttle might have taken. 3 days later, a Mars patrol ship found Maya's shuttle. The small vessel was drifting near an asteroid field, its power almost depleted. The patrol ship brought them in, and Maya and the children were transferred to a medical facility on Mars. When Maya finally got to talk to Captain Morrison, she was in a hospital bed with Sela sleeping next to her. The girl refused to leave her side. How is everyone? Maya asked. Safe, Danny said. All 73 children are alive and recovering. Earth has granted them all asylum. They're setting up a foster care center on Luna. And us? The crew? Danny hesitated. There's going to be a court-martial. Earth dropped the charges, but the military still has to review what happened. We disobeyed direct orders. We destroyed government property. We started a diplomatic incident. I know, Maya said. I'd do it again, though. So would I, Danny agreed. So would everyone on the crew. We all knew what we were doing. The court-martial lasted 2 days. The military prosecutors laid out the charges. The defense attorneys argued about moral duty and impossible choices. The judges listened to testimony from the crew, from the doctors treating the children, from the Kel children themselves. Sela was the last to testify. She stood in front of the military tribunal, a tiny figure with scales that shifted nervously through different colors. She had been practicing her English with Maya. Her words were slow and careful but clear. The humans saved us when no one else would. The council knew we were dying. Our own people put us in those places. But the humans came. They broke down the door. They gave us food and water. They protected us even when it was dangerous. She looked directly at the judges. Lieutenant Price told me she would do everything to keep us safe, even if it cost her everything. She kept that promise. Captain Morrison kept that promise. All the humans kept that promise. They are not criminals. They are heroes. Her scales shifted to that same warm orange she had shown Maya. In Kel culture, this color means deep gratitude and family bond. It is the color we show to pack mothers who protect cubs. These humans are our pack mothers now. Please do not punish them for saving us. The tribunal retired to consider their verdict. It took them 3 hours. When they returned, the head judge read the decision. This tribunal finds the defendants guilty of disobeying direct orders and unauthorized military action.
However, we also found
The image of Sela confronting her mother spread across the galaxy faster than any official message could travel. It was shared on 1,000 worlds. It was translated into 100 languages. And everywhere it went, it asked the same uncomfortable question that demanded an answer. Who will you be when someone needs help? The Galactic Council tried to respond. They issued statements above.